and welcome to another great webinar called AppStack. AppStack is a 30-minute webinar where you will have a chance to hear about a number of different apps from customers around the world. My name is Amanda Nelson, Director of Community Marketing, and I am going to hand it off to the amazing Geraldine Gray, our host of today's webinar. Geraldine, take it away.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. We have a very special session today. Not only are we talking about everything AppExchange, but we're also talking about GDPR. So if you have GDPR questions, we have GDPR answers, especially those that involve AppExchange apps. Sorry, that'll be me silencing the people in the background in our office. Amanda, let's move along to talk about what All in the Stack is and how it works. Perfect. So All in the Stack is a app that we've built on Heroku. We invite you to go to allinthestack.com and to submit your stack for submission so that maybe you can appear on one of these webinars and we can be talking about your solutions. What we do is we look at how customers use real-life Salesforce solutions to solve real-life problems. So our first speaker that we're working with today is Bash Din from ZumZum. Bash, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing with the Salesforce platform right now.
Hello, Geraldine. Hello, everybody. So Bash from ZumZum. I've been a personal Salesforce user and customer since, I think last time you asked me, Geraldine, I said 2005. It's probably earlier, but I didn't want the risk of getting it wrong. So a long, long time, early days from Salesforce. And we're also, of course, a partner of Salesforce as well. So loved it that much that we backed it as well.
Okay, so more than 10 years. And you're based in?
We're based in Stockport, South Manchester, United Kingdom.
Perfect, thank you, welcome. And Ian, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, how long you've been working with the Salesforce platform and the ecosystem, and how you got into this, into Salesforce.
Yeah, I'm another Brit, but actually I now live in San Francisco, but I started with Salesforce in 2001. We were a customer when there were only 2 people in the London office and the cloud wasn't even a thing. So we've been around a while. I think there were only contacts, leads, and accounts. I don't think opportunities had come out. It's now a very different machine now, way more powerful than when we started. So we've had a pretty exciting time watching the meteoric growth of Salesforce. It's been fantastic.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you, Ian. Thank you, Bash. And our special topic that we're talking about today is GDPR. Ian, can you just take a moment to introduce what GDPR is before we look at Bash's All in the Stack?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I've become that guy where they go, oh, sitting in the corner of the bar going, don't get him started on GDPR. So I think I've read all the legislation. I seem to spend my entire time talking about it, thinking about it, or speaking about it. So let's get the summary out. It impacts anyone who has EU data. So it doesn't matter if you're in the US, if you hold data on EU citizens, then you're liable. The deadline is the 25th of May, which obviously isn't very far away, but let's think of that as a milestone rather than necessarily a deadline. And the other headline item that people talk about is the fines are 20 million euros or 4% of global revenue, whatever is larger. And that's what everyone talks about. But actually, let's get into what it really is. It's about actually enabling customers to control their data and forcing organizations to have transparency about what we do with their data. So up until a few months ago, if you asked anybody, Cambridge Analytica, they would have told you it was a font. Now with obviously the Facebook debacle, everyone realizes how much their data is being shared and exploited. And really GDPR is helping force companies to be more diligent about what they do with data. So that's causing basically the whole of our customer facing processes to be re-engineered. So we're starting to track consents. So instead of emailing people until they tell us to stop, we need to have some level of consent from customers. So this seems like a huge onerous task, but let's turn it around and turn it into a benefit. You're now having a proper engaged conversation with 20,000 customers rather than spamming 20 million. It certainly means that the level of touch points with customers are improving and you're dealing with customers who genuinely want to talk to you. So think of this as a lifestyle change rather than necessarily a crash diet. And a great comment from, which I'll finish on, which is from the Financial Times I saw yesterday. It's a massive shift, and it creates opportunities for businesses to compete on the basis of privacy. Let's just let that sink in for a moment. So if you are saying that you're satisfying GDPR and looking after customer data correctly, then you can use that as competitive advantage versus your nearest competitor who is just spamming you. So I think it's an important shift, and those people who embrace it and do a decent job of it, I think will come out stronger.
So we have taken, at NGM, we have taken some of Ian's ideas and best practices, and we're actually applying them to our projects that we're delivering for our customers as well, and it's already making a difference. And it's retargeting the idea that it's better to have 20,000 great names who are really your customers than 20 million names who are just a splat gun at the wall. So thank you, Ian. We're going to come back to your stack. Bash, are you ready to talk about your all in the stack? So tell us a little bit about what you're doing at ZoomZoom and what you're responsible for, and then Amanda's going to show the slide and we're going to look at your stack.
Thank you, Geraldine. Yes, I am ready. So ZoomZoom are a cloud solutions provider. We started about 10 years ago, and one of the first decisions that we made, probably one of the easiest decisions, was that our CRM system would be Salesforce. So we've been using Salesforce from the beginning, so to see, as a startup. And
what are you responsible for at ZoomZoom?
So
what's your day-to-day Salesforce? Your day-to-day Salesforce job is?
Well, I'm a user first and foremost. We also consult on it. We're an ISV, so we build products and sell through the AppExchange as well. And of course, we help customers make most out of Salesforce.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's take a look at your stack. Okay, so we're following our GDPR theme. So let's first of all talk about the items that you have in your sales stack and how that's helping you move towards some compliance with your customers, as well as doing your everyday job.
Indeed, indeed. So every day I'm a user of Sales Cloud and Service Cloud. And more recently Pardot as well. So, you know, that decision we made at the beginning that we wanted a single system where all of our customer information would reside is paying dividends today, because we've added on Service Cloud, and as Ian said, in the early days, you know, Salesforce was really a Salesforce automation tool, and now it's complete sales, service and marketing. And at the same time, we need to reinforce that, keeping that simple process, one set of data. We added a finance application, ZoomZoom Financial, so we can do all of our accounting, invoicing, cash collection on the Salesforce platform, while retaining that one customer record, and of course the contacts associated with that customer, with that account as well.
Okay, perfect. So let me specifically ask you in your stack about SuperClone, because that goes right back to having good contact data.
It does, and it's a tactical solution. You know, what I like about the AppExchange is that mix of either something strategic like an accounting application or something more tactical to solve, you know, a point solution and a point pain. And in this one, we're actually using to clone quotes with line items. So I've not seen the ability in Salesforce to, you know, clone a quote and retain one single opportunity linked to an account with multiple quotes, and that was always time consuming. And I guess the culture now is always go to AppExchange and look for add-ons, and that particular add-on allowed us to solve a point solution. And I'm still using it every day, and we're using it in the business every day to solve that problem. We might even have to extend it to opportunities in Lightning as well, which now don't seem to be able to clone with product line items as well, but that's quite a nice little tool that we're using on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so that's SuperClone. And then in addition to SuperClone, tell us how you're using the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, because we haven't talked about that on a previous session. So what problem does it solve for you with your data and your sales process?
Again, it's trying to make life easy for the user. So when we're looking at leads and contacts and even accounts directly in the Salesforce screen, embedded within that screen, although it works in the classic interface, it's really beautiful in the Lightning interface, a panel that gives you information from LinkedIn, the profile, the contact information, allows you to click through, connect with those individuals, and create a link. This is LinkedIn Premium, so it's a paid version. There is a light LinkedIn Navigator available, but this is the paid version, and then obviously you can track leads and your contacts and have that association back to Salesforce. And the nice thing is when you're looking at the LinkedIn record, there's a little flag that lets you know that contact actually exists in your Salesforce CRM already. So creating that association all happens automatically with the LinkedIn Sales Navigator.
Okay, perfect. And then moving along to your customer service. So you've got SuperClean, which is, excuse me, keeping your data clean in terms of opportunities and quotes, or opportunities and product line items. You've got LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is helping to enhance and massage your data in your sales process. Talk to me a little bit about what you have in your customer service stack and how that's helping keep customer data clean and appropriate.
Yeah, and that's another evolution. You know, in the early days, we managed customer cases directly in the Sales Cloud CRM, and obviously we've added the additional functionality of Service Cloud licensing with entitlements and SLAs, and responding to cases, you know, depending on the product or the service that the customer actually has. So went full-blown Service Cloud and the Service Cloud implementation there as well. And below that, you see case merge, and we've been using a feature for quite a long time, email to case in Salesforce, and it's relatively easy to create duplicate cases, which users have to manually deal with. What case merge allows you to do is to keep your data clean, and of course to keep your KPIs clean and realistic as well. So when a duplicate case comes, just click a button and be able to merge that into an existing case. So the way, just a little idiosyncrasy with email to case on Salesforce, if the tracking code's not in the inbound email, either a new or existing response to a case, it can inadvertently create a duplicate case, you know, and that's just skewing your numbers and making work for service users that they don't necessarily need. So as soon as you view that, there's a click a button and all that data is merged into an existing case, and that case can either be closed off or deleted depending on your preferences. We actually delete it, we don't need that data, it is duplicate. Get rid of the duplicate straight away, and then you have really got one case associated to that contact. And again, all of that is trying to say that everything that you do with that customer, whether it's selling them something, sending them invoice, taking payments, doing service, or marketing with product, everything has one account, one contact, one set of data, which hopefully when Ian talks about what you need to do inside Salesforce, then we're of the benefit already that we've not got systems outside of the Sales Cloud, and trying to keep everything in one place is going to make it easier to comply with. And also, you know, when we get requests for removing data, etc., we know that all of that information actually exists against one account, one contact inside Salesforce.
Okay, I think you are living the Salesforce dream there.
We'll buy into the dream and the vision. And you know, you can see a couple of products like MailChimp, and if we're still having to use third-party marketing tools for legacy reasons, but the dream is obviously retire all of those. And that top line there, you know, if there were other products from Salesforce like the recent B2B marketing tools, again, adding it on and having that one set of data and one system keeps things simple and easy to manage, and particularly from complying to GDPR.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with this thought. So hopefully we'll have time to come back around to questions if Ian hasn't already gone down the path to talk about GDPR. My question for you is going to be a little bit, Bash, if you could have any app free or paid, think about this until the end, any app free or paid, what would that be? That's my question for you. We'll come back to that later. One thing, so moving along to, we're going to take a moment and talk to Ian. One thing that Bash was talking about was linking to Pardot. There's an app called Engagio. I think we may even have a slide on it. There we go. Yeah, perfect. Okay. There's an app that we've been working with called Engagio, which is an account-based marketing tool, which helps solve some of those account-based issues. One of the problems that lots of customers have is that they can't link a lead directly to an account, and Engagio allows you to do this. Keeping with our theme about data compliance and the new EU regulations, this falls in perfectly because it allows you to keep your messaging appropriate and timely. And so instead of doing that big spam to your customers, you can just market to the right people at the right point in time. And then what's really interesting is that it allows you to track engagement and then tie that engagement to revenue attribution, which is something that is sorely lacking in many marketing tools. It's complementary to Pardot, and it is absolutely brilliant. Go check it out on the AppExchange, and you'll also be stunned by the price because it's like $1. So it's absolutely brilliant. Okay, so that was our app in the minute for today, which is Engagio. We've got another one to mention later. But Mr. Gotts, your time is up. So Ian, we would like you to show us your stack and tell us how the AppExchange is solving issues for customers with their EU data compliance.
Absolutely. So this, just to be clear, this is not my stack. We thought we'd change the rules a little bit and go, let's look at the apps that are out there to support GDPR. So the first lie around GDPR is if anybody says our app will support the whole of GDPR, they're lying, because actually it requires a number of different applications because it's a wide-ranging set of legislation. So what I've tried to do is look at the 4 different major pieces of work that people are doing when I talk to customers and when I've looked at the legislation that you need to do. And then I've looked at the applications that are out there on the AppExchange, which will help you do that. So the first is a lot of companies are out there. Obviously, they need to take legal counsel, but they may need to update their agreements with their customers. And obviously, the way to do that is electronically. DocuSign is the monster, I guess, in the marketplace around, and also they are probably, in terms of all the companies I've talked to, both them and Salesforce are the most advanced in terms of their preparation for GDPR. Right, DocuSign.
And they just went public this week.
They went public, absolutely, and they've actually
DocuSign.
Yes. They've also achieved BCR, Binding Corporate Rules, which is the highest standard around GDPR, and very few companies have done that. I mean, it's very impressive, the work they've done. So that's about getting those agreements signed and updated and creating those electronically. You need to track that you've got that agreement, and I'll pick that up in the 4th stack. So the second area is building a data inventory. Now, someone like Bash has already got all his data in one place, but he still needs to work out which fields hold personal data. Now, it's easier if they're all in one application, and we're talking to customers about, well, let's migrate all those spreadsheets into Salesforce, so at least it's in one place. Some companies are out there trying to build that data inventory using spreadsheets. Our application creates that and syncs it every night. It'll sync all your configuration data into a table, and some of that categorization will be done for you. So at least you know where that personal data is, so you can understand how you might need to go and delete it. Just to give you a scale, I've got one customer who's syncing 65,000 items out of their org every night. So this idea of keeping that updated.
Define 65,000 items, for example.
So that could be objects, fields, Apex triggers, email templates, reports. So it's the whole org we're pulling out. Obviously, from a GDPR perspective, the important thing is the fields, and we're doing a little bit of work about telling where fields are used. So building that inventory is something which you need to do and keep up to date ongoing. As I said, GDPR is not just it's a lifestyle change. This is stuff that you need to keep up to date.
Okay, perfect. So now tell us about the the 3rd column in your stack. So this scenario would be, I am a customer or a prospect. I think you have data on me. This is a suggestion for how to solve that problem when the customer wants their data scrubbed or they want to see what data you have, correct?
Correct. So there are 6 different requests in GDPR. Articles 15 to 22 cover that. The one that everyone talks about is the right to be forgotten, the right for erasure. The important thing is you have 30 days to respond. The other interesting thing is you don't have to delete it. There may be good reasons why you need to keep that data. It may be because you're in a legal dispute. There may be laws that say you can't delete that data. You may need to anonymize it. So it's more than just hitting delete. So there are some applications like Odeceiver and Own Backup who've been spending a lot of time looking at the GDPR legislation and starting to think about how they can enhance their backup tools to start to give you support for things like right of access or right of portability, which says that a customer can take their data and they need it in an electronic format so they can take it to another company. The obvious one is right to be forgotten, which is all about deleting. And again, you just dig into that a bit more. It's not just deleting in production, but what have you got in your sandboxes? What have you got in backups? So sometimes you actually need to go to one of these applications that is really, they focus on backups, and they've now focused on GDPR, so they're a sophisticated solution there.
Perfect. Okay.
The other two ones there, Rev are all about making it easier to put shield, so put encryption and protection around your fields. And again, it's not mandatory to have encryption around GDPR, but again, the legislation says that you need to look after the data in an appropriate way, which means you may want to encrypt. And then the last thing in the stack is form assembly, which is you're going to get these requests, so you need some way of tracking them. You don't want people emailing you. You don't want people hitting your contact us form. You actually want a managed way of getting all those requests in and then populating an object, whether it's a case or a custom object inside Salesforce, so you can track whether you have satisfied that request and it's within 30 days and you've got some history about it.
I love the form assembly use case. There's so many people that already have form assembly that are using it for different data collection aspects. This is a really easy way to build on a tool that you already have and help bring your company into compliance.
Absolutely. And the second time form assembly appears is even more compelling. So the last thing is the piece that people, I think, forget. Everyone's worried about right to be forgotten. Well, actually, not much. I don't think many customers are really going to tell me, delete my data. What they actually care about is being spammed or being sent the inappropriate marketing material. If you send me something just when so you send me information about going on holiday just when I'm thinking about going to that particular location, that's not spam. That's really helpful. Sending me a bunch of stuff that is nothing to do, that I didn't sign up for is spam. And therefore, GDPR is making sure that we track all the permissions that customers have given to us. So if you think about all the way through the life cycle, when I first meet you at an event, when I scan you, that is a data permission I need to track. It's not can I scan your badge, but it's can I scan you and would you be okay if I sent you information on our webinars and information on our products? That's two data permissions. As you go through the sales cycle, when you're selling to someone, when you sign a contract, when they sign up for an event, when they go to your website for a blog subscription, they are all data permissions that need to be tracked. So you can't just add a single checkbox to an object like a lead or a contact, because you need to track the permission, have evidence of it, understand what marketing I can now drive off the back of that permission, and that permission should expire based on your company's policies. So it's a little bit more involved. So we've acquired the IP from a guy who created a great app, but actually couldn't take it to market, called the Data Privacy Manager. And that's basically building the 7 objects and the 11 reports and a bunch of Apex triggers you need to basically put that in place. Now, you can build it as a custom object. You could go and build your own app. With everything in the AppExchange, sometimes it's easier to buy because the company's going to look after it, and it's quicker. So that's elements.cloud. JLink's taking a more visionary approach to data privacy, and they're building sort of the ultimate consent center where it's a customer could have either a mobile or a web experience, and that customer could have it connected to multiple companies, and they can therefore control their permissions on their app or on their phone or on their app, and then they control what permissions get sent to the different customers who are on that app. So it's a far broader vision, but it starts with a few companies connecting the JLink app into their Salesforce org. And I think this is really where this informed consent is going. DataPro's got has a way of starting to track consents at an object level. And then the last thing is form assembly. So back to your lead, when you think about your web to lead, it's no longer web to lead, it's web to lead and data permission. So form assembly have built some forms so that you can start to capture those subscriptions, but at the same time it will go and create a data permission. and they've built it so it creates a data permission in elements.cloud. And I was on the flight back from Philly, I was just thinking about the different ISVs that would be creating a data permission. It could be, inbound and outbound calling, contact centers. All our marketing solutions are creating those permissions. Every event app creates them. Online conferencing. I mean, I signed up for this conference today. That's a permission that I'm giving. Every time you sign a contract, when people join a project, when you subscribe to a website, if you're a student signing up or alumni in a higher education, or if you're a donor or volunteer around nonprofits. So there are lots of different apps that should be creating these data permissions. And as a customer, you need to track it in one place. And again, Salesforce has got a simple structure, a single object with a record that you can populate fairly easily. And there's no reason why any of these ISV apps couldn't be pushing that record in to make life easier for customers as clients as they start to try and manage all these different permissions.
So I think what I'm hearing today from you about GDPR is that you don't have to be compliant from the first moment that it comes into effect, but you must be moving towards compliance, and you must show that you're moving towards compliance. And customers are going to start, as soon as customers are allowed or prospects are allowed to ask for information, they're going to start doing it. So it's better to be prepared than having to do a bunch of manual processes trying to pick through their data and then submit it to them.
Great summary. Absolutely. Yes.
I'm sorry, did I just steal your thunder there?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's fantastic that we can start to summarize it like that, rather than everyone spending time with lawyers debating why Article 19.4 has got some grey areas. That's not the point of this. The point of this is, how do we build stronger businesses? I said it's a lifestyle change. It's like going to the gym. It's painful at first, but if you keep going, you have to keep going and going to the gym. You can't just go and watch. You keep going to the gym, and 2 months, 3 months, 6 months later, you leave way leaner, way fitter, and way stronger. And I think the companies who embrace these things will come out the leaders, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, not least that you're going to have your org documented. Even if you don't have even if you have every point of your data documented, at least you start to document your org, which is typically sadly lacking in many scenarios. So thank you, Ian. If we have time to come back to you, my question will be the same as for Bash, which is if you can have any app, paid or free, what would that be? So if you think about it for a moment. I just want to mention one of the apps that we've also been looking at in the same GDPR story, which is Prolific. And so Prolific is a sales engagement tool that allows you to send the right content at the right moment. This is exactly what we've been talking about today in terms of not spamming your customers and making sure that your messaging is appropriate. So for example, if I'm in sales and I want to deliver something really slick that's marketing and content relevant to an energy prospect, when I reach a particular sales gate, I can have Salesforce fire that off to the person at the right moment. Or I could send them maybe an example of a customer success story. And then it tracks all of the content that's being used. So the marketing team gets feedback about what's working and what's not working. And then I would hope that the marketing team, so sorry, Prolific, but I take slightly off course, but I hope that the marketing team would then be feeding that back to the Salesforce admin and ensuring that all of the data that the customer is asking for, or the data that the customer is opting in or opting out of, is being observed as well. So that's Prolific. We talked about lots and lots of apps today. So Engagio, Prolific, we've talked about Zoom, we've talked about Elements, we've talked about Form Assembly, we've talked about many of the free apps and Case Merge, all with the idea of keeping your data in one place and keeping your data clean and keeping it safe, and then being able to deliver superb service to your customer or your prospects when they ask to see their data. You're going to be able to do that if you're following some of these GDPR techniques. So back to Bash for a quick question. So Bash, you've had some time to think. If you could have any app free or paid on the AppExchange, what would it be? Or invented?
Or invented? Well, I think
this is all in your mind. So anything you want, I'll give it to you for today.
Well, no, I actually really do have a wish list, and I think we ticked one of those off quite recently with Pardot. And I don't know if I'm suffering from branding here, but we've got some particular requirements about, automating renewals and subscriptions and the quote process. And I'm going to shoot for Steelbrick would be at top of my list. something that we desire, but where we don't really have the budget for it right now. So we'll make it do with standard CPQ with Salesforce around quotes, and that's why I've got that little app in there. But yeah, SteelBrick would be at the top of my list for something we would add.
Okay, we'll send that to Santa and his elves, and we'll ask them for a special pricing towards the end of the year.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Ian, if you could have any app free or paid, or invented in your own mind from the AppExchange, what would that be? And it does not have to be GDPR relevant or compliant.
I'm not sure if it's invented. Again, I'm still trying to find one that does it properly. Is some way of starting to track true duplications. I mean, the individual object that that Salesforce launched in spring is a great start towards trying to find that Geraldine, I've got you 7 times in my database, 3 times as a lead and 4 times as a contact. Some way of actually elegantly spotting that you're the same person, even though you've got different email addresses, so I can start to build that individual object, I think will be a long way in terms of starting to deliver a better level of engagement with customers. But it's really hard to do, and I'm hoping that maybe shout out to Layla, and it maybe the next next AI group of what do you call them, where they're out building the apps in brain's gone, where they get a whole crowd of young companies together and start to build some apps in a sort of a startup
incubator.
Hackathon.
No, the incubator. Thank you. That was the word. So yeah, I'm hoping that maybe someone will come out of the incubator combining, I know, some of the data comparisons and maybe put a bit of AI on top of that, and maybe they'll solve that as a problem. Because I think that's, for all of us, this multiple data issue is what kills us all.
It's true. It's hard. I found a dupe in my org last night and nearly had a heart attack. I was like, man, that's the first time ever. That's not a good sign. Not a good sign. And then I well, anyway, basically, and then I couldn't work out how to dedupe it using Lightning. So there we go. That was my problem last night. Okay, so thank you so much, gentlemen. This has been really fun. All the English accents. I hope everyone's been able to keep up with us. We have not had too many puns or too many jokes, and we've kept it all very Americanized and sanitized. But we'll save those for another day. Let me hand back over to Amanda, who's going to wrap up and tell you what to do next.
Thank you. Thank you all. That was great. I learned so much about GDPR as well as about the technologies we can be using to learn more and be smarter about it. So thank you, Ian and Bash, for that. And of course, Geraldine, for your time today. Ian did mention an incubator program. We have one called Accelerate. And if you're interested in that, feel free to let us know in the chat or shoot us an email at ampteam@salesforce.com, and we can get you more info on that. Always looking for folks to be building. Build a stack at allinthestack.com. If you do and you tweet it or share it with us, you could be the next speaker on this webinar. We have some openings for the summer and the fall. We'd love to have you on our webinar. Also, our next AppStack webinars are June 6th, August 1, and October 3. We are taking July 4th off. We do this every first Wednesday of the month. So July 4th is the first Wednesday. We're also taking Dreamforce off the whole month of September for Dreamforce. So we will not be here July or September, but definitely June. Check us out. Thank you again to our amazing customers and Geraldine as our host. This will be available on our AppExchange YouTube channel within 24 hours. Be sure to share it and make sure you listen to it again. We can learn a lot more about GDPR from these great folks today. Thank you and have a great day.